Okay, Mary, let's just go through a couple of these, go through the ones that you were missing. This first one, we have a bunch of these quantity A, quantity B problems, as I'm sure you realized, where we have to tell, is one greater than the other, they equal, or can you not tell? So here we have the average of 100 measurements is 23, which means that the sum of those would be 23 times 100, or 2300. And then we have the average of 50 extra ones is 27. So 50 times 27 would be 1,350. And you could add that to these 23. Let's go ahead and do that. So we have 2,300 plus 1,350. And that counts for all 150 measurements. So we could divide by 150 and get 24.33. So the average of the 150 is 24 1/3. Quantity B is 25, so quantity B is greater. Now another way you could look at that is you have 100 at 23, 50 at 27. 25 is exactly the halfway point between 23 and 27. But because there's many more measurements on the low end, that's going to bring the average down. So the weighted average will be down somewhere below 25. So even if you didn't know it was exactly 24 1/3, you would know that it was less than 25 for sure. So that's how we could have chosen that. Okay. This one's more of a logic puzzle. So we have these four numbers, 1, square root of 2, x, and x squared, where x is positive. So we know that x is a positive number, and also x squared, of course, would be positive. And the range of the numbers in the list is 4, which means that the maximum minus the minimum is 4. Now, if 1 is okay, how would I say this? If 1 is so I guess what I'm saying is we're trying to figure out what if x is less than or equal to 2. First of all, we know that x is not negative. And then we think, what's the highest that x could be? Well, the highest that x could be is 1 plus 4, because the range of these numbers is 4. So the highest that x squared could be is 5, which means that x could be square root of 5. Now, if x is the square root of 5, it will be greater than 2. But let's think about what the minimum that x could be. It says the range of the numbers in the list is 4. So we really either have to be a negative number for x and be 4 less than the square root of 2, or we have to have x be 4 higher than 1, which would give us 5. But if we did that, then x squared would be 25. So that would be a range of 24 overall. The only way that x squared would be less than x is if x was a number between 0 and 1. Say it was 1/2, and x squared would be 1/4. But in no case like that would we actually have a range of 4, because square root of 2 is only 1.4, so we'd have to be like negative 2.6 to get that range of 4, and that violates the fact that x is greater than 0. So basically we have to have x squared equal to 5, which means x has to be square root of 5, which means it's greater than 2. Sorry, that was probably more confusing than it had to be. This one, 750 participants in a professional meeting, 450 are female, meaning that 300 are male. Half of the female and 1/4 of the male are less than 30 years old. Okay, so that means that half of the female, 225, are less than 30, and 1/4 of the male, 75, 75 meals are less than 30. So we have 225 plus 75, which is 300 of our participants are less than 30. So 300 out of the 750 would be 30 out of 75, and then divide top and bottom by 15, and you'll get 2 out of 5. And finally we had this one. I particularly didn't like these questions as much because percentages are kind of ambiguous. But let's take a look. So airline B's average rating for convenience, so we're right here, this 8.0, was approximately what percent greater than airline A's average rating for convenience? So the 8.0 is what percent greater than 5.1? So first we would subtract the two, 8 minus 5.1, and that would give us 2.9. And then we put that difference over the base rate, which would be A's convenience, 5.1. So 2.9 divided by 5.1, and that'll give us 0.57, or 57% greater. So the calculation formula there for percent greater is you take the difference and then you divide that difference by whatever the base comparison thing is. So in this case, we're talking about airline A's average rating for convenience is kind of our basis. Okay, and then the other two you said you didn't have. So you have 2 more. If you could send those to me, maybe I can offer some suggestions there too.